The San Diego Convention Center was packed with people. It was July 2024, and more than 6,000 fans filled the giant hall. They were all waiting to see Vin Diesel. The famous actor was there to talk about his new Fast and Furious movie. The crowd was loud and excited. People wore t-shirts with his face on them. Some held signs with quotes from his movies. The air conditioning worked hard against the heat of so many bodies. Camera flashes lit up the dark hall like tiny stars. Security guards stood at every exit. Their radios crackled with constant updates. On the massive screens above the stage, Vin Diesel's face appeared larger than life. He smiled and waved at the crowd. They screamed back at him. But this story is not really about Vin Diesel. Not at the start, anyway. This story begins in a different part of the building. In the back hallways where the fans never go, where the lights are bright and harsh instead of dramatic and dim, where the smell of cleaning products fills the air instead of popcorn and excitement. Maria Santos pushed her cleaning cart down the long hallway. Her back ached. She had been working for 8 hours already, but her shift was not done. She had 4 more hours to go. Maria was 42 years old, but tonight she felt much older. Her hands were red and rough from years of scrubbing floors and washing windows. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun. A few gray strands showed near her temples. She wore a gray uniform with a name tag that said Maria, Custodial Services. The uniform was too big for her thin frame. She had lost weight over the past year. Working 2 jobs did that to a person. There was not always time to eat proper meals. Maria stopped at a door marked Green Room B. She knocked twice, then waited. When no one answered, she pushed her cart inside. The room was empty now, but earlier it had been full of actors and producers. They had left behind empty water bottles, crumpled napkins, and half-eaten sandwiches. Maria began to clean. As she worked, her mind drifted to her son. Lucas was 14 years old. Right now, at this very moment, he was somewhere in that massive hall full of screaming fans. Maria had saved money for 6 months to buy him a ticket to this event. It was not a good ticket. Lucas was sitting in the overflow section, far from the main stage. But he did not care. He was just happy to be there. Maria smiled as she emptied a trash can. She could picture Lucas's face when she gave him the ticket last month. His eyes had gone wide. His mouth had dropped open. Then he had hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. "Thank you, Mama," he had said. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Lucas loved the Fast and Furious movies. He had watched each one at least 10 times. Maria did not really understand the appeal. To her, they were just movies about cars and explosions. But to Lucas, they meant something more. He loved the way the movies talked about family. About how family was not just blood. About how people could choose to be family to each other. This was important to Lucas. He needed to believe it. Because Lucas did not have much family. His father had died when Lucas was 6 years old. A heart attack, sudden and cruel. After that, it was just Maria and Lucas against the world. Maria's parents lived in Mexico. She had not seen them in years. She could not afford the trip. Lucas also needed the movies because school was hard for him. Not the learning part. Lucas was smart. He read books that were meant for kids much older. He wrote stories that made Maria cry when she read them. But Lucas had a stutter. When he spoke, the words got stuck. They would not come out right. Other kids made fun of him. They called him names. They laughed when he tried to answer questions in class. The stutter made Lucas feel different. Made him feel broken. But when he watched Vin Diesel talk about family and belonging, Lucas felt less alone. He felt like maybe there was a place in the world for someone like him. Maria finished cleaning the green room. She moved to the next one, then the next. Her feet hurt in her old work shoes. She had meant to buy new ones, but then Lucas's school needed money for a field trip. The shoes could wait. Through the walls, Maria could hear the crowd roaring. Vin Diesel must be saying something exciting. She wondered if Lucas could see anything from where he was sitting. She hoped so. She hoped this night would be special for him. He deserved something special. He had been through so much. The stutter had gotten worse over the past year. Maria had taken Lucas to see a doctor. The doctor said Lucas needed speech therapy. Good speech therapy with a specialist. Maria asked how much it would cost. When the doctor told her, Maria's heart sank. She made $11 an hour cleaning buildings. Even with her second job on weekends, she could not afford that kind of money. Her insurance did not cover it, so Lucas struggled on without help. But he never complained. That was not Lucas's way. He just got quieter, spoke less, wrote more stories instead. Stories where the heroes were people like him. People who did not fit in but found their strength anyway. Maria pushed her cart toward the back of the building. She had more rooms to clean before her shift ended at midnight. As she walked, she passed other workers. Some she knew, some she did not. They all wore the same gray uniforms. They all had tired eyes. They were the invisible people who made events like this possible. They cleaned the bathrooms and emptied the trash and swept the floors. And almost nobody noticed them, but that was okay, Maria thought. She did not need to be noticed. She just needed to do her job and get paid. That money would buy food for Lucas, would keep the lights on in their small apartment, would maybe someday pay for the therapy he needed. Meanwhile, out in the massive hall, Lucas sat in his seat. He was so far from the stage that Vin Diesel looked like a small figure in the distance, but Lucas did not care. He could see enough. He could hear the words through the speakers. That was all that mattered. Lucas held a poster he had made at home. It was simple, made with markers on cardboard. It said, "Family is everything. Thank you for teaching us that." The words were a little crooked. Lucas's hands had shaken while he wrote them, but he was proud of it anyway. Around Lucas, people stood and cheered. They held up their phones to record videos. They shouted questions and comments. Lucas stayed seated. He was too short to see over everyone, too shy to shout. He just held his poster and hoped that maybe somehow Vin Diesel might see it. On stage, Vin Diesel was in the middle of a story. He was talking about filming the new movie, about the stunts in the cars and the explosions. The crowd loved it. They laughed at his jokes. They applauded at the right moments, then something strange happened. Vin Diesel stopped talking. He stopped in the middle of a sentence. He stood very still and looked out into the crowd. His eyes scanned the thousands of faces. He was looking for something, or someone. The crowd grew quiet, confused. What was happening? Had something gone wrong with the event? Vin Diesel raised his hand and pointed. He pointed toward the overflow section, toward the back where the cheap seats were, toward where a thin 14-year-old boy sat holding a homemade poster. "You," Vin Diesel said into the microphone. His voice echoed through the hall. "The kid with the poster about family. Can you stand up?" Lucas's heart stopped. Then it started again, beating so hard he thought it might break through his chest. Was Vin Diesel talking to him? That could not be right. That could not be possible. "Yeah, you," Vin Diesel said, still pointing. "Stand up. Let me see you." Lucas stood on shaking legs. Around him, people turned to look. Thousands of eyes landed on him. He wanted to sit back down. He wanted to disappear, but Vin Diesel was looking right at him. "Security," Vin Diesel said. "Can you bring that young man up here? I want to talk to him." The convention center erupted in confused murmurs. This was not part of the scheduled program. What was Vin Diesel doing? Two security guards appeared at Lucas's row. "Come with us, son," one of them said kindly. Lucas looked around desperately as if searching for an escape. But there was nowhere to go. The guards waited patiently. Lucas stepped over the people in his row, mumbling apologies. His poster crumpled in his sweating hands. The security guards led him down the aisle. Each step felt like walking through deep water. His legs did not want to work right. His breath came in short gasps. The walk from the overflow section to the main stage took 2 minutes. To Lucas, it felt like 2 hours. People stared at him as he passed. Some smiled encouragingly. Others looked curious. A few recorded him on their phones. Lucas's mind raced. Why was this happening? What did Vin Diesel want? What if they asked him to speak? What if he had to talk in front of all these people? His stutter would be terrible. Everyone would laugh. Everyone would see that he was just a nobody. Just a poor kid with a speech problem and a mother who cleaned toilets for a living. But it was too late to run now. The security guards brought him to the front of the stage. Steps led up to where Vin Diesel waited. The actor stood at the edge of the stage looking down at Lucas. The lights were blinding. The crowd was silent now, watching, waiting. Vin Diesel reached down. He extended his hand to Lucas. "Come on up," he said gently. "Don't be scared." Lucas looked at that hand. It was the hand that had starred in a dozen movies. The hand that had gripped steering wheels and fought bad guys and saved the world over and over on screen. And now it was reaching for him. Lucas took a deep breath. He grabbed Vin Diesel's hand. And as he stepped up onto that stage, into those blinding lights, in front of 6,000 silent people, Lucas's whole life was about to change forever. Lucas stood on the stage. His legs felt like they might give out at any second. The lights were so bright he could barely see the crowd anymore, but he could feel them. 6,000 people, all looking at him, all waiting to see what would happen next. Vin Diesel stood next to him, still holding his hand. Then the actor did something unexpected. He got down on one knee. This put him at Lucas's eye level. Suddenly, Lucas was not looking up at a movie star. He was looking at a person with kind eyes who was smiling at him. "Hey there," Vin Diesel said. His voice was gentle, nothing like his movie characters. "What's your name?" This was it. The moment Lucas had been dreading. He had to speak. He had to say his name in front of all these people. Lucas opened his mouth. His tongue felt thick and heavy. The word was right there in his brain, but getting it from his brain to his mouth felt impossible. Lucas, he finally managed to say. The stutter was bad, really bad. Lucas heard a few people in the crowd snicker. His face burned with shame. He looked down at his shoes. They were old sneakers, worn and dirty, not the kind of shoes a person wore on stage. But then he heard other people in the crowd shush the ones who had laughed, and Vin Diesel did not react to the stutter at all. He just kept smiling like Lucas had said his name perfectly. "Lucas," Vin Diesel repeated. "That's a strong name. I'm Vin, but you probably know that already." He winked, and Lucas felt his heart slow down just a little. "I saw your poster out there. It said family is everything. You want to tell me why you made that?" Lucas looked at the poster in his hands. It was crumpled now from his sweaty grip. The words were harder to read than before. He tried to smooth it out a little. Speaking was going to be hard. Lucas knew that. Every word would be a fight. But Vin Diesel was looking at him like he had all the time in the world, like he actually wanted to hear what Lucas had to say. That made Lucas feel braver. My mom, Lucas started. Each word felt like pushing a boulder up a hill. "She works here, in this B building." Vin Diesel's eyebrows went up. "Yeah? What does she do?" "She cleans," Lucas said. "She's a janitor." The word janitor came out clearly, which surprised Lucas. Maybe because he had said it so many times in his life. When kids at school asked what his mom did, he had to say it. When teachers asked about his family, he had to say it. And every time he said it, some people looked at him differently, like he was worth less because of what his mother did. But Vin Diesel did not look at him that way. "A janitor," he said, nodding slowly. "That's honest work. Hard work." "Yes," Lucas said. "She works really hard." Behind the stage in one of the back hallways, Maria had just finished cleaning another room. She was pushing her cart toward the storage closet when she heard noise from the main hall. More noise than usual. She was curious. Her break was in 10 minutes anyway. Maybe she could peek through the curtain and see what was happening. Maybe she could catch a glimpse of Lucas in the crowd, even though she knew she would never be able to find him among all those people. Maria left her cart by the wall. She walked quietly to the side of the stage where there was a gap in the curtains. She could see the massive screens from here, and what she saw made her heart stop. There, on the screen, larger than life, was her son. Her Lucas. Standing on the stage next to Vin Diesel, Maria's hand flew to her mouth. Her cleaning supplies clattered to the floor. A spray bottle rolled away, but she did not notice. Her eyes were locked on the screen. What was Lucas doing up there? How did this happen? Was he in trouble? She watched as Vin Diesel spoke to Lucas, watched as her son struggled to form words. She knew that struggle. She had watched it for 8 years, ever since Lucas started stuttering. She had held him while he cried about it, had told him over and over that his words mattered, even if they took longer to come out. Now thousands of people were hearing that struggle. Maria wanted to run onto the stage and protect her son, but her feet would not move. She just stood there, frozen, watching. On stage, Vin Diesel was asking Lucas another question. "You said you made this poster because of family. Tell me more about that. What did the Fast and Furious movies mean to you? Lucas took a breath. This was important. He needed to say this right. He had thought about it so many times. At school, he began. Kids make fun of me. Because of your stutter? Vin Diesel asked gently. Lucas nodded. Yeah, and because we don't have much money, because my mom is a janitor. He paused, gathering courage. They say mean things. They say I'm weird, that I don't belong. The convention center was completely silent now. 6,000 people held their breath. This was not what they had expected when they came to see Vin Diesel. They had expected jokes and action movie clips and maybe some behind-the-scenes stories. They had not expected this raw, honest moment. But then I will watch your men movies, Lucas continued, and you to talk about family, about how family means accepting people as they are. Not but because they're perfect. Not but because they have money or talk right. Just but because they're family. Vin Diesel's eyes were shining now. He blinked a few times. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. That's exactly right, Lucas. That's exactly what we try to say with those movies. He paused, then asked, So your mom, she's family? To you in that way? She accepts you as you are? She's my hero, Lucas said simply. Those 4 words hung in the air. Maria, watching from the side of the stage, felt tears spill down her cheeks. She had never heard Lucas say that before. Vin Diesel put his hand on Lucas's shoulder. I can tell she's a good person. You know how I can tell? Lucas shook his head. Because she raised a brave kid like you. It takes guts to stand up here and speak in front of all these people. Especially when speaking is hard for you. That's real courage, Lucas. It's not just talking that's hard, Lucas said. He was getting more comfortable now. The words were still difficult, but they were coming a little easier. I like to write saint stories, but in school teachers asked me to read them out loud. And I can't. The words get stuck, and the kids laugh. Vin Diesel frowned. That's not right. Stories should be heard no matter who tells them or how they tell them. That's what my mom says, Lucas replied. Smart woman, your mom, Vin Diesel said. Then he got a thoughtful look on his face. Hey Lucas, do you have any of your stories with you? Lucas's eyes went wide. He nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out several pieces of paper. They were worn and crumpled. The edges were soft from being folded and unfolded many times. These were pages Lucas carried everywhere. Stories he had written and rewritten, read and reread. Vin Diesel looked at the pages. He could see they had been handled a lot. That meant these stories were important to Lucas. What are these about? Different things, Lucas said. But this one, he held up the most worn pages. This one is my favorite. What's it about? Lucas looked down at the pages. It's about a b-boy whose mom is a superhero, but nobody knows. They just think she's regular, but she's not. She saves the world every now and night. Vin Diesel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, That sounds like a great story. He looked out at the crowd, then back at Lucas. Would you read it to everyone here? Lucas's face went pale. His hands started shaking so badly the papers rattled. Everyone in the convention center could hear that rattle through the microphone. I can't, Lucas whispered. Why not? Vin Diesel asked. Because I'll mess it up. Because everyone will laugh. Vin Diesel looked out at the crowd. Will you laugh? He asked them. No, thousands of voices shouted back. See? Vin Diesel said to Lucas. Nobody's going to laugh, but I understand if it's too scary. How about this? What if you just read it to me? Lucas looked confused. Just you? Just me, Vin Diesel confirmed. He sat down on the stage floor, right there in front of everyone. His expensive clothes and movie star image did not matter. He just sat down like a regular person. Then he patted the floor next to him. Come on, sit down. Read me your story. Lucas stared at him. This was Vin Diesel, a man who had been in action movies with The Rock and Jason Statham. A man who drove cars through buildings and fought whole armies of bad guys, and he was sitting on the floor asking Lucas to read him a story. Slowly, Lucas sat down, his legs folded under him. He smoothed out the pages as best he could. His hands were still shaking. The papers were still rattling. Take your time, Vin Diesel said quietly. No rush. Lucas looked at the first page. He had read these words 100 times. He knew every sentence by heart. But reading them out loud was different. Reading them in front of people was different. He opened his mouth. The first word stuck in his throat like always. The good start, Vin Diesel said, smiling. Keep going. The wee world didn't know about M. Maya's secret, Lucas read. And so he continued, word by word, sentence by sentence. His stutter made every line a battle. Some words took 3 or 4 tries to get out. Some sentences took a full minute to read. But Lucas kept going. The story was beautiful. It was about a woman named Maya who worked cleaning office buildings at night. But what nobody knew was that while she cleaned, she also saved the world. She stopped alien invasions. She prevented disasters. She protected people while they slept. Her son in the story was named Daniel. Daniel knew his mother was tired all the time. Knew she worked hard. But he did not know about her secret life until one night when he followed her to work. As Lucas read, his voice cracking with effort, people in the crowd started to cry. They saw themselves in this story. They thought about their own mothers and fathers who worked hard jobs, who sacrificed so much, who were heroes in quiet ways that nobody noticed. Maria stood behind the curtain listening to every word. She was sobbing now. She recognized herself in the character. Lucas had written this story about her, about seeing her as more than just a janitor, about understanding that her work, her love, her sacrifice made her powerful. The story took 15 minutes to read. Lucas struggled through every word, but nobody interrupted him. Nobody laughed. They just listened. Lucas reached the last page of his story. His throat was dry. His voice was hoarse from the effort of pushing out each word. But he was almost done.
He could see the ending he had written months ago.
The ending that always made him feel both sad and proud when he read it to himself at night. Daniel finally understood, Lucas read, his voice shaking. His mother wasn't just a key cleaner. She was never just a janitor. She was always a hero. He just finally saw her cape. The last word came out as barely a whisper. Lucas lowered the pages. His hands had stopped shaking so much. He felt tired, like he had run a race. He had just read more words out loud than he usually spoke in a whole week. For a moment, there was complete silence. Lucas worried he had bored everyone. Maybe the story was not as good as he thought. Maybe people did not understand it because of his stutter. Then the silence broke. One person started clapping. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, all 6,000 people were on their feet. The sound of applause crashed over the stage like a wave. People were not just clapping. They were cheering. Some were wiping tears from their eyes. Others were hugging the strangers next to them. Lucas sat frozen on the floor, stunned. He had never imagined people would react like this. His stories usually stayed hidden in his notebook. Sometimes his teachers read them silently and gave him a grade. His mother read them and told him they were beautiful. But that was it. He never thought thousands of people would stand and cheer for his words. Vin Diesel stood up. He pulled Lucas to his feet and wrapped him in a tight hug. That was incredible, he said into Lucas's ear, his voice choked with emotion. That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. The applause continued. It went on for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. People did not want to stop clapping. They wanted Lucas to know what his story meant to them. The stage manager tried to signal that they needed to move on with the program, but Vin Diesel waved him off. Let them clap, Vin Diesel said. He deserves every second of this. Finally, after 5 full minutes, the applause began to fade. People sat back down, but the energy in the room had changed. This was not just a fun convention anymore. This was something more, something real and human and important. Behind the stage, Maria could not stop crying. Her shoulders shook with sobs. A woman appeared next to her. She wore a gray uniform just like Maria's. Her name tag said Patricia. She had worked at the convention center for 12 years. "You okay, honey?" Patricia asked, concerned Maria could not speak. She just pointed at the screen with a shaking hand. Patricia looked. She saw Lucas on the stage with Vin Diesel. Then she looked back at Maria's face. The resemblance was clear. "That's your boy?" she asked softly. Maria nodded. "That's my Lucas," she managed to say through her tears. Patricia put her arm around Maria's shoulders. "Oh, honey, you must be so proud." "I am," Maria sobbed. "I am so proud. But I am also scared. All those people looking at him. What if they are mean? What if they hurt him?" "They won't," Patricia said firmly. "Look at them. They love him." On stage, Vin Diesel was still standing with his arm around Lucas's shoulders. He spoke to the crowd. "You know what I love about this kid? He reminds me why we make these movies. It's not about the cars or the explosions. It's about the message. It's about telling people that they matter, that their struggles matter, that their stories deserve to be heard." The crowd applauded again. "Lucas," Vin Diesel said, turning to face him, "you said your mom works here in this building right now, right?" Lucas nodded. "She's probably cleaning somewhere. What if we brought her out here? Would that be okay?" Lucas's eyes went wide. Really? I want to meet this hero you wrote about." Lucas did not know what to say. Part of him wanted his mother there so badly. He wanted to share this moment with her. But another part of him worried. His mother was shy. She did not like attention. She would be embarrassed about her uniform, about her appearance. She had left for work that evening with her hair quickly pulled back, with no makeup, in her worn gray uniform that was too big for her. But before Lucas could answer, Vin Diesel was already speaking to the stage crew. "Can someone find Lucas's mother? Her name is—" He looked at Lucas. Maria Santos," Lucas said. "Maria Santos," Vin Diesel repeated into his microphone. "She works custodial services here. Can we please find her and bring her out?" Behind the stage, Patricia heard the name. She looked at Maria. "That's you. You need to go out there." Maria shook her head frantically. No. I cannot. Look at me." She gestured to her uniform, her red hands, her tired face. "I cannot go in front of all those people like this." "Yes, you can," Patricia said. "Your son wants you there. Did you hear his story? He thinks you're a hero. You need to go out there and be his hero right now." Maria was still shaking her head when more footsteps sounded in the hallway. Stage crew members were searching for her. One of them, a young woman with a headset, spotted them. "Maria Santos?" she called out. Before Maria could answer, Patricia did it for her. "Right here." "This is Maria." The crew member rushed over. "Please come with me. Vin Diesel wants to meet you." "I cannot," Maria said, her English accent thick with panic. "I am not ready." "I look terrible." "You look fine," the crew member said kindly. "Please, your son is waiting." At that moment, another person appeared. It was Tyrese Gibson, one of the other actors from the Fast and Furious movies. He had been backstage watching everything on the monitors. He had seen Lucas's story. He had seen the tears in the crowd. And when he heard they were looking for Lucas's mother, he came to help find her. Tyrese saw Maria in her uniform. He saw her scared face. He understood immediately. "Mrs. Santos?" he said gently. Maria nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. "Your son just did something amazing out there. Something brave. Now it's your turn to be brave. He needs you." Tyrese offered his hand. "I'll walk you out there. You don't have to be scared." Maria looked at his kind face. Then she thought about Lucas, her baby boy who struggled every day with his stutter, who faced bullies and cruel comments, who worked so hard to be heard in a world that often did not want to listen. If Lucas could be brave enough to read his story in front of thousands of people, she could be brave enough to walk onto a stage. She took Tyrese's hand. "Okay," she whispered. Tyrese led her toward the stage. Maria was very aware of everything that was wrong with her appearance. Her uniform had a stain on the front from cleaning solution. Her shoes squeaked on the floor. Her hair was messy. She wished she had at least put on lipstick that morning. But there was no time to fix any of that now. They reached the side of the stage. Maria could see the bright lights. She could hear the murmur of the massive crowd. And then she saw Lucas standing there next to Vin Diesel, looking small and scared and brave all at once. Tyrese stepped onto the stage first. The crowd erupted in cheers when they saw another actor appear, but Tyrese waved them quiet. Hold on, he said into a microphone someone handed him. I've got someone here you all need to meet. He turned and held out his hand. Maria took it. She stepped into the lights. The crowd saw her uniform. They saw her worn appearance. They saw her nervous face, and they understood immediately. This was Lucas's mother. This was the hero from his story. The applause started again, but this time it was different. It was softer, more respectful. People were not just clapping for a movie star or an exciting moment. They were clapping for a woman who worked hard to take care of her son, a woman they normally would not notice or think about. Maria walked across the stage. Her legs felt weak. She was sure she would fall. But Tyrese held her steady. And then she saw Lucas running toward her. Her beautiful boy, her precious Lucas, with tears streaming down his face. They met in the middle of the stage and wrapped their arms around each other. Maria held Lucas tight, the way she had held him when he was little and scared of thunderstorms, the way she had held him when kids at school were mean, the way she held him every time the world was too hard. Mama, Lucas said into her shoulder. It came out clear with no stutter at all. Mi amor, Maria whispered back. My love, I am so proud of you. They stayed like that for a long moment while the crowd watched. There was something sacred about it, a mother and son together supporting each other. It was what all of Vin Diesel's movies talked about. Family, love, being there for each other. Finally, they pulled apart. Vin Diesel approached them. Up close, Maria could see that his eyes were red. He had been crying. This tough action star who fought and drove fast cars in his movies was crying over her son's story. Mrs. Santos, Vin Diesel said, it's an honor to meet you. Maria did not know what to say. She had never expected to meet someone famous. Certainly not like this, in her dirty uniform in front of thousands of people. Thank you, she managed to say. Thank you for being kind to my Lucas. Kind to him? Vin Diesel shook his head. Mrs. Santos, your son just taught all of us something important. He reminded us what courage looks like. What love looks like. He did that because of you. Maria started crying again. She tried to stop, but she could not. Everything was too much. Too overwhelming. Too wonderful and too scary all at once. Vin Diesel waited until she collected herself a bit. Then he asked, can I ask you some questions? Would that be okay? Maria wiped her eyes with her rough hands. She nodded. Lucas told us you work here, as a janitor. Is that right? Yes, Maria said. Her English was good, but her accent was thick. I clean the buildings. At night mostly. And some days too. That's hard work, Vin Diesel said. Yes, but honest work. Good work. How long have you been doing this? Maria thought. 8 years now, since my husband died. I needed a job. This one they were hiring. The hours were good because Lucas was young. I could be home in the day when he needed me. You're raising Lucas by yourself? Yes, just us two. Maria looked at Lucas and smiled. But he is a good boy. He makes it easy. Lucas was crying again now. He had never heard his mother talk like this before. She always worked so hard to protect him, to make their struggles seem less difficult. But now she was admitting how hard it had been. And she was saying he made it easy when Lucas knew the truth. His stutter, his needs, his problems had made everything harder for her. Lucas's stutter, Vin Diesel said carefully. Has he gotten help for that? Maria's face fell. This was the painful part. The part that kept her up at night. We try, she said quietly. We see doctor. He says Lucas needs therapy. Special therapy with specialist. But you can't afford it, Vin Diesel guessed. Maria shook her head. Tears spilled down her cheeks again. I work hard. I work 2 jobs. But it is not enough. The insurance, it does not cover. I save money, but then something happens. The car breaks. Lucas needs new shoes. Something always happens. Lucas grabbed his mother's hand. It's okay, Mama, I don't need therapy. Yes, you do, Maria said firmly. She looked at Vin Diesel. He is so smart, so creative. But the stutter, it holds him back. Kids are mean. Teachers do not understand. He has so much to say, but it is trapped inside. She was speaking faster now with more emotion. All the worry and frustration and love she felt for her son poured out. I try everything. We practice at home. We read together. I tell him his words matter. But I am not a professional. I cannot fix it for him. The crowd was silent. Every person there was thinking about their own struggles, their own children, their own parents who had sacrificed for them. Maria's pain was universal. It was the pain of any parent who wanted to help their child but could not. Vin Diesel pulled out his phone. Right there on stage, in front of everyone, he made a call. The crowd watched, confused. What was happening now? The phone rang twice. Then someone answered. Vin Diesel spoke into the phone, and his words were broadcast through the speakers for everyone to hear. Dr. Chen, it's Vin. I hope I'm not calling too late. I have someone here I need you to meet. The massive screens above the stage lit up with a video call. A woman's face appeared. She looked to be in her 50s with glasses and kind eyes. She was in what looked like an office with medical certificates on the walls behind her. Vin, the woman said, smiling. This is a surprise. What can I do for you? Dr. Chen, I'm at Comic-Con right now. There are about 6,000 people here with me. Vin Diesel turned the camera so Dr. Chen could see the crowd. I want you to meet someone very special. He moved the phone so it showed Lucas and Maria standing together. This is Lucas Santos and his mother Maria. Lucas is 14 years old. He has a stutter. His mother can't afford the therapy he needs. Can you help them? Dr. Rebecca Chen looked at Lucas through the phone screen. Lucas looked back at her, scared and hopeful at the same time. The doctor had kind eyes. They reminded Lucas of his mother's eyes. Hello, Lucas, Dr. Chen said warmly. Hello, Mrs. Santos. I've actually been watching the live stream of this event. Lucas, I heard your story. It was beautiful. Thank you, Lucas whispered. I'm a speech pathologist, Dr. Chen explained. I work with people who have trouble speaking. People with stutters like yours, Lucas. I have a clinic in Los Angeles. We help children and adults find their voices. Maria's hand tightened on Lucas's. Los Angeles was far away. They lived in San Diego, but even that felt too far. How could they possibly go to Los Angeles for therapy? The gas money alone would be too much. I know what you're thinking, Mrs. Santos, Dr. Chen said as if reading her mind. You're thinking Los Angeles is too far. You're thinking about the cost. Let me explain something. At my institute, we have a program for young people who show exceptional promise. Lucas, your story shows me you're a writer. A good one. You have something important to say. I want to help you say it without so much struggle. Lucas felt his throat get tight. Not from his stutter this time, but from hope. Dangerous hope, the kind that hurt if it got crushed. What I'm offering, Dr. Chen continued, is a full scholarship to our intensive youth program. 6 months of therapy, 3 times a week. And because I know you can't travel to Los Angeles that often, we also provide housing for families who come from far away. There's a small apartment near the clinic. You and your mother could stay there. Maria made a sound like she had been punched. Her free hand covered her mouth. You mean, for free? She asked, not believing it. Yes, Mrs. Santos, completely free. It's part of our mission. We believe everyone deserves access to good speech therapy, not just people who can afford it. But, my job, Maria said, her mind racing. I cannot leave my job for 6 months. How would I pay for food, for our apartment here? That's a good question, Dr. Chen said. Let me ask you this. What do you do for work? I clean buildings. I'm a janitor. Maria lifted her arm slightly, showing her uniform as if Dr. Chen might not believe her. So you have experience with facility management. Cleaning, maintenance, that kind of thing? Yes, for 8 years now. Good. One of my colleagues at the Institute just told me yesterday they're looking for someone to help manage the facility. It's a day job, regular hours, better pay than what you're making now. I could put you in touch with them if you're interested. Maria felt dizzy. This could not be real. Things like this did not happen to people like her. She cleaned floors. She emptied trash cans. Nobody offered her better jobs and free therapy and a place to live. There had to be a mistake, but Dr. Chen was still talking. Lucas, would you like to come to Los Angeles and work with me and my team? We can't promise we'll make your stutter go away completely. That's not always possible. But we can give you tools to manage it. We can help you feel more confident. What do you think? Lucas looked at his mother. She was crying again, but these were different tears. These were tears of relief, of hope, of gratitude. I think yes, Lucas said. I think I would like that very much. The convention center exploded with applause. People were on their feet again, cheering and crying. They had come to see action movie previews. Instead, they were watching lives change in real time. Vin Diesel was trying to keep his own emotions under control, but not succeeding very well. His voice was thick when he spoke. Dr. Chen, you're amazing. Thank you for this. Thank you for calling me, Vin. Lucas, Mrs. Santos, I'll have my assistant contact you tomorrow to arrange everything. We'll get you set up. The video call ended. The screens went dark. Maria and Lucas stood on the stage holding each other. Neither could quite believe what had just happened. Minutes ago, Maria had been cleaning a green room. Lucas had been sitting in the overflow section with his homemade poster. Now everything had changed, but Vin Diesel was not done. He looked out at the crowd and spoke in a serious voice. I want to talk about something important. We just met Maria Santos. She works here in this building. She cleans the bathrooms and empties the trash and sweeps the floors. And most of the time, people don't even see her. She's invisible. He paused, letting that sink in. But she's not alone. There are dozens of people working here right now who keep this place running. People who clean up after us. People who work security to keep us safe. People who serve us food. And we walk right past them like they're not even human. The crowd was quiet now, listening. Some people looked uncomfortable. They knew he was right. I'm guilty of it too, Vin Diesel continued. I've been coming to events like this for years, and I never stopped to think about the workers who make it all possible. Today, Lucas reminded me. His story about his mother being a secret superhero reminded me that everyone has value. Everyone matters. Not just the people on stage. Not just the people with money or fame, everyone. He turned to Maria. Mrs. Santos, how many people are working here tonight? Other cleaners, other staff? Maria thought for a moment. Maybe 45 people? Maybe more? Vin Diesel pulled out his phone again. He made another call. This time he called the venue manager. Hey, this is Vin Diesel. I'm on stage right now. Can you come out here for a minute? 2 minutes later, a nervous man in a suit appeared. He looked confused and worried. Having Vin Diesel call him on stage in front of thousands of people was not part of his normal job. Hi, Vin Diesel said, shaking the man's hand. What's your name? Robert Martinez. I'm the facility manager here. Robert, nice to meet you. I want to do something and I need your help. How many people do you have working backstage tonight? Staff, cleaners, security, everyone? Robert looked nervous. About 45 people on this shift. Perfect. Here's what I want to do. I want to give each of those workers a $5,000 bonus. Tonight. Is that possible? Robert's mouth fell open. A $5,000 bonus each? Each, Vin Diesel confirmed. That's $225,000 total. I'll cover it. I just need you to help me make it happen. The crowd went insane. The cheering was so loud it hurt ears. People were jumping up and down. This was not just charity. This was recognition. This was Vin Diesel using his wealth and platform to say that every worker mattered. Robert looked like he might faint. Yes, we can do that. I'll need some time to arrange it, but yes, absolutely. Great, Vin Diesel said. But that's not all. I also want to start a scholarship fund for the children of all the workers here and at other venues. Kids who want to go to college or trade school or pursue their dreams but can't afford it. I'm putting in $500,000 to start. We'll call it the Lucas Santos Family Scholarship. Lucas heard his name and started crying harder. This was too much. It was all too much. His mother held him tight, both of them shaking with emotion. The crowd was chanting now. Family, family, family. It was the theme of all the Fast and Furious movies, but now it meant something more. It meant seeing everyone as valuable. Everyone is worthy of respect and care. Other actors started appearing on stage. Tyrese came back, bringing Michelle Rodriguez with him. Ludacris appeared from the other side. Soon, most of the main cast was there. They had all been backstage watching this unfold. They had all been moved by Lucas's story and Vin Diesel's response. Michelle Rodriguez approached Lucas. She knelt down so she was at his level, just like Vin Diesel had done.
Hey, Lucas, she said.
I want to tell you something. Lucas wiped his eyes and looked at her. When I was a kid, I had trouble talking too. Not a stutter like yours, but I had a speech problem. I worked with therapists. I practiced and practiced. It got better, but it was hard. Really hard. And sometimes I still struggle. So I understand what you're going through. Really? Lucas asked. Really? And I want you to know something else. Your story gave me chills. You're a writer, Lucas, a real writer. When you're ready, when you've finished working with Dr. Chen, if you want to keep writing stories, I know some people in the publishing world. I'd be happy to introduce you. Lucas could not form words. He just nodded, overwhelmed. Ludacris stepped forward next. And I produce music and work with young artists. If you ever want to turn your stories into scripts or screenplays, I can help with that too. You've got talent, kid. Real talent. Maria listened to all of this in a daze. Famous actors were offering to help her son. Her Lucas, who had been bullied and mocked, was being told he had talent, that his dreams were possible. I cannot believe this, she whispered to Vin Diesel. This morning I woke up worried about paying the electric bill. Now all of this, it is like a dream. It's not a dream, Vin Diesel assured her. It's real. You and Lucas deserve this. You deserve support. You deserve opportunities. Robert, the facility manager, was busy on his radio calling all the staff to come backstage. Within minutes, workers started appearing. They were confused, worried they had done something wrong. Facility managers did not usually call everyone together in the middle of an event. The workers gathered in the wings, just off stage. There were janitors like Maria in gray uniforms, security guards in black shirts, food service workers in aprons, maintenance people with tool belts, all of them looking nervous and confused. Vin Diesel saw them gathering. Come on out here, he called. Don't be scared. You're not in trouble. We want to celebrate you. Slowly, hesitantly, the workers came onto the stage. They walked out into those bright lights just like Lucas had. They saw the crowd of 6,000 people. They saw the cameras. Most of them wanted to run away. They were used to being invisible. Being seen like this felt wrong, uncomfortable, but the crowd started applauding. These workers who normally got ignored were being cheered. Some of them started to cry. An older man in a janitor's uniform walked over to Maria. His name tag said Thomas. Maria, he said, his voice shaking. What is happening? Something wonderful, Maria said. Something impossible. Thomas had worked at the convention center for 15 years. He was 63 years old. He had cleaned floors and windows and bathrooms for decades. In all that time, he had never been on this stage, had never been acknowledged. People walked past him every day like he was furniture. Now he stood in front of thousands of people who were clapping for him. For his work. For his worth as a human being. Vin Diesel addressed all the workers. I want to thank you. All of you. You make events like this possible. You keep these spaces clean and safe. You work hard, often for low pay and little recognition. That's wrong. You deserve better. So tonight, each of you is getting a $5,000 bonus. And beyond that, your children now have access to scholarship money for their education. Because you matter. Your families matter. One by one, workers were handed envelopes. Inside was a check for $5,000. Some opened the envelopes and gasped. Others cried. A young woman in a food service uniform fell to her knees, sobbing. That money would change her life, would help her pay off debt, would give her breathing room she had not had in years. The crowd watched it all. They were witnessing something they would never forget. This was better than any movie preview. This was real life, real people having their lives changed. Lucas stood with his mother surrounded by movie stars and workers. He thought about his story, about the boy who finally saw his mother's cape. He had written that story because he wanted people to understand what he saw. That his mother was a hero. That invisible people were actually powerful. He had not expected anyone to hear it. Certainly not thousands of people. And he never imagined it would lead to this. To therapy and scholarships and recognition. But maybe that was the point of stories. Maybe stories had power. Maybe they could change minds and open hearts and make people see what they had missed before. Lucas looked at his mother. She was talking to other workers, all of them crying and hugging. Then he looked at Vin Diesel, who was taking pictures with the staff. Then at the crowd still cheering, and Lucas thought, maybe the world is better than I thought. Maybe there are good people who care. Maybe speaking up, even when it is hard, even when words get stuck, is worth it. His stutter had always felt like a prison. But tonight his struggle to speak had opened doors, had created connection, had reminded people to see each other. Maybe his stutter was not just a problem. Maybe it was part of his story, part of what made him who he was, and maybe that was okay. The celebration on stage continued. Workers hugged each other, still not quite believing what had just happened. Some of them pulled out their phones to call family members. Others just stood there holding their envelopes, staring at the checks inside like they might disappear if they looked away. Thomas, the older janitor who had worked at the convention center for 15 years, approached Vin Diesel. His hand shook as he held his envelope. "Sir," he said, his voice breaking, "I don't know what to say. In 15 years, nobody has ever even said thank you. Not really. And now this." Vin Diesel put his hand on Thomas's shoulder. "You don't have to say anything. You've already said it with your work. With showing up every day, with taking pride in what you do." Thomas wiped his eyes. "I have a grandson. He's 10, smart kid, but we can't afford the tutoring he needs. The school says he could do great things if he just had some extra help. Now maybe—" His voice trailed off, too emotional to continue. "Now maybe he'll get that help." Vin Diesel finished for him. "That's what the scholarship fund is for. That's why we're doing this." The crowd was quieter now, but still watching. This was not entertainment anymore. This was something sacred. They were witnessing dignity being restored. They were seeing what happened when someone with power used it to lift others up. A young woman in a food service uniform approached Maria. Her name tag said Keisha. She looked to be in her early 20s. "Mrs. Santos," she said shyly, "I just wanted to say, your son is amazing. And you're amazing. I have a little boy at home. He's 3. I work here at night so I can be with him during the day. Just like you did with Lucas, and sometimes I feel like I'm failing him. Like I'm not giving him enough." Maria took Keisha's hands. "You are not failing him. You are working hard for him. That is love. That is everything." Keisha started crying. "Thank you." I needed to hear that. More workers came up to talk to Maria. She had become a symbol for all of them. She represented every parent working a hard job to provide for their children. Every person who felt invisible but kept working anyway. Every hero without a cape. Meanwhile, Vin Diesel was on his phone again, making more calls. He spoke quickly, making arrangements. The crowd could not hear everything he was saying, but they could tell something else was being planned. After several calls, Vin Diesel addressed the crowd again. "I want to explain something about the scholarship fund I just mentioned. This isn't just about the workers here tonight. This is bigger than that. I've just gotten off the phone with my financial team and some partners in the entertainment industry. We're expanding this program." He paused, looking out at the thousands of faces watching him. "The Lucas Santos Family Scholarship will be available at venues across the country. Convention centers, movie theaters, concert halls, anywhere entertainment happens. The workers who make those places run, their children will have access to scholarship money. We're starting with $500,000, but we're going to grow it. We're going to make it bigger." The crowd erupted again. This was not just a nice gesture anymore. This was a movement. This was change. Vin Diesel continued, "And we're going to make sure people know about it. We're going to tell Lucas's story. With his permission, of course." He looked at Lucas. "Would that be okay, if we shared your story to help other people?" Lucas felt scared at the thought of more attention. But he also felt something else. He felt like maybe his struggle could help someone. Maybe another kid with a stutter would hear about this and feel less alone. Maybe another parent working hard would feel seen. Yes," Lucas said. "You can share it." Maria squeezed his hand, proud beyond words. The other cast members were talking among themselves. Tyrese stepped forward with a microphone. "Yo, Vin, you know what? I want to add to this. I'm putting in another $250,000 to the scholarship fund." Michelle Rodriguez raised her hand. "Me too, $250,000. One by one, the other actors pledged money. Ludacris added to the fund. Even some of the producers who were backstage came out and made pledges. Within minutes, the scholarship fund had grown to over $2 million. The crowd was going wild. They were witnessing generosity on a scale most had never seen. But more than that, they were witnessing a shift. Hollywood stars using their platform for something meaningful. Not for publicity or tax breaks, but because they had been moved by a 14-year-old boy's story about his mother. Vin Diesel looked overwhelmed himself now. This is more than I expected. This is incredible." He turned to Lucas and Maria. "You two started something tonight. You know that?" Lucas did not know what to say. His mind was spinning. 6 hours ago, he had been sitting at home, nervous about coming to this event. His mother had been worried about taking time off work. They had been living their normal, hard life. Now they were on stage with movie stars. Lucas had a scholarship to speech therapy. His mother had a new job opportunity. There was money for workers and their families. All because Lucas had made a poster. All because he had been brave enough to read his story. It did not feel real. It felt like one of his stories. Like fiction. But the lights were real. The crowd was real. His mother's hand in his was real. A photographer from one of the entertainment magazines was taking pictures. "Can we get a photo?" she called out. "All of you together? The cast and the workers?" Everyone gathered for the photo. Movie stars and janitors, actors and security guards. Famous people and invisible people all mixed together. Maria stood next to Vin Diesel. Thomas stood next to Michelle Rodriguez. Lucas was in the front, still holding his crumpled story pages. The photographer took several shots. "These are going to be iconic," she said. "This is going to be everywhere tomorrow." Lucas felt a spike of anxiety at that thought. Everywhere? People everywhere would see him, would hear about his stutter, would judge him? As if reading his mind, Vin Diesel leaned down and spoke quietly to Lucas. "I know this is scary, all this attention. But remember, you're not alone in this. We've got your back. Me, the cast, Dr. Chen, everyone. You're family now." "Family," Lucas repeated. That word again. The word that had brought him to this convention. The word that had given him courage to make his poster. The word that meant everything. The event was supposed to end at 9 o'clock. It was now past 10, but nobody wanted to leave. The crowd stayed in their seats. They wanted to see what would happen next. They wanted to hold on to this feeling a little longer. Finally, a producer came on stage and whispered to Vin Diesel. They were going to have to clear the venue soon. Security regulations, fire codes. People needed to leave. Vin Diesel nodded. He turned to the crowd one last time. "We have to wrap this up. I know it's late. But before everyone leaves, I want to say something. What happened here tonight, this doesn't end here. This is just the beginning." Lucas and Maria reminded us of something important. They reminded us that everyone has value. Everyone has a story. Everyone deserves to be seen. He paused, collecting his thoughts. "I've been making movies for a long time. Action movies. Movies about heroes and fighting and saving the world. But tonight I met real heroes, and they don't drive fast cars or fight bad guys. They clean floors. They raise kids. They show up every day even when life is hard. Those are the real superheroes." The crowd stood and applauded, not the excited applause from earlier. This was deeper, more meaningful. This was respect. "Go home tonight and think about the invisible people in your lives," Vin Diesel said. "The person who cleans your office. The person who serves your coffee. The person who delivers your mail. See them, thank them. Remember they're human beings with families and dreams and struggles." That's what Lucas taught me tonight. That's what I'll never forget. With that, the event ended. But nobody rushed to leave. People stood in the aisles talking about what they had just witnessed. Some were on their phones, already posting about it on social media. Others were calling friends and family to tell them what happened. The hashtag #Lucas story started trending within minutes. People were sharing videos of Lucas reading his story, of Vin Diesel sitting on the floor with him, of Maria coming on stage in her janitor uniform, of the workers receiving their bonuses. By the time Lucas and Maria left the convention center that night, the story had reached millions of people. News outlets were picking it up. Entertainment reporters were calling it the most heartwarming moment in Comic-Con history. But Lucas and Maria were not thinking about any of that yet. They were just trying to process everything that had happened. Vin Diesel had given them his personal phone number. Dr. Chen's assistant had already emailed with details about the therapy program. Several actors had connected with them on social media. A driver from the studio took them home. Their apartment looked the same as when they left that morning. Small worn furniture, peeling paint on the walls, but somehow it felt different now. It felt like a place where a hero lived. Maria made tea, something she did every night before bed. Lucas sat at their small kitchen table. They did not speak for a long time. They just sat there together, letting the silence hold them. Finally, Maria spoke. "Did that really happen?" "I think so," Lucas said. "We have so much to do now. We need to prepare for Los Angeles. I need to give notice at my job. You need to tell your school. We need to pack." Maria was making mental lists, her practical nature taking over. "Mama," Lucas said. "Yes, mi amor? In my seat story, I wrote that I finally saw your sea cape. But tonight, the whole world saw it." Maria started crying again. She reached across the table and took Lucas's hand. "You did that. You showed them." "We did it together," Lucas corrected. They sat like that for another hour, drinking tea, holding hands, occasionally laughing at the impossibility of it all. Outside their apartment, the world was changing. Their story was spreading. But inside their small kitchen, they were just a mother and son, grateful to have each other. Around midnight, Lucas went to his room. He sat on his bed and looked at his notebook full of stories. Stories about heroes and families and invisible people. He had written these stories because he needed to say something. Because words on paper came easier than words from his mouth. He opened to a new page. He needed to write down everything that happened tonight before he forgot any details. His hand moved across the paper, filling page after page. For once, writing felt different. Before, he wrote to escape. To imagine a better world. Now he was writing to remember. To capture the moment when the world became better than he imagined. In her bedroom, Maria was on her knees praying. She thanked God for the blessing, for the opportunity, for the kind people who had helped them. She prayed for strength to handle the changes coming. She prayed for Lucas, that the therapy would help him, that the attention would not hurt him. She prayed that she could be the mother Lucas saw in his story. The hero, the one with the cape. Maria had never felt like a hero. She felt like a woman who was barely keeping her head above water, who worked 2 jobs and still struggled to pay bills, who could not afford to help her son the way he needed. But tonight, people had looked at her differently. They had seen her the way Lucas saw her, as someone strong, someone worthy of respect, someone who mattered. Maybe that was what love did. Maybe it helped people see each other clearly, see past the surface to the truth underneath. Maria finished her prayers and got into bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, a whole new life really, but tonight she just felt grateful. Grateful for her son, grateful for unexpected kindness, grateful that sometimes when you need it most, the world surprises you. In his room, Lucas finished writing. He read over what he had written. The story of tonight felt as fictional as anything else in his notebook. A boy with a stutter reading his story in front of thousands of people, his mother being celebrated instead of ignored. Movie stars offering help, money for therapy and scholarships. If he had written this as fiction, people would say it was unrealistic. Too perfect, too much like a fairy tale, but it was real. It had happened. And tomorrow when he woke up, it would still be real. Lucas put down his pen. He was tired, exhausted really, but his mind was racing. He thought about Los Angeles, about speech therapy, about meeting Dr. Chen, about learning to speak without such struggle. He thought about the other kids in the therapy program he would meet, kids like him who fought to be heard. He thought about how maybe he could help them, how maybe his story could give them hope. And he thought about his mother getting a better job, getting normal hours and better pay, not having to work herself to exhaustion anymore. That thought made Lucas happy in a deep way he could barely express. He turned off his light and lay in the dark. Through his thin walls, he could hear his mother moving around her room, getting ready for bed. The sounds were familiar and comforting. No matter what changed, they still had each other. They were still family. Lucas thought about Vin Diesel's words, about family not being just blood, about choosing your family. Tonight they had gained so many new family members, people who cared, people who wanted to help. For so long it had been just Lucas and Maria against the world. Now they had a whole team, a whole community. As Lucas drifted off to sleep, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt hopeful, not just for tomorrow or next week, but for the future, for all the possibilities ahead. His stutter would probably never go away completely. There would still be hard days, still be people who did not understand, still be struggles. But now he knew he was not alone in those struggles. Now he knew his voice mattered even when it shook. Now he knew that speaking up, being vulnerable, sharing his truth could create change. And that was worth all the fear, worth all the hard work ahead, worth everything. The Los Angeles sunshine poured through the large windows of Dr. Chen's Speech Therapy Institute. The building was modern and bright, designed to feel welcoming rather than clinical. Comfortable chairs filled the waiting area. Art from young patients covered the walls. In one of the therapy rooms, Lucas sat across from Dr. Chen working through his exercises. "Okay, Lucas, let's try the breathing technique we've been practicing," Dr. Chen said. "Remember, there's no rush. Take your time." Lucas took a slow, deep breath. "The boy walked down the street," he said. The words came out with only a small hesitation. His stutter was still there, but much lighter, more manageable. Excellent, Dr. Chen said, smiling. You've made so much progress. How does it feel? Good, Lucas said. Different. Like the words don't get saint stuck as much. That's because you're learning to work with your speech pattern instead of fighting against it, Dr. Chen explained. The stutter may never completely disappear, Lucas, but it doesn't have to control you. You're controlling it, Lucas nodded. He understood this now. For years, he had thought of his stutter as something broken that needed fixing, but Dr. Chen had taught him a different way to think about it. It was just part of how he communicated. It made him different, but different was not bad. A documentary camera crew was set up in the corner of the room. They had been filming Lucas's journey for the past few months. The footage would become part of a larger campaign about childhood speech disorders, about breaking down stigma, about showing that kids who struggle to speak still have important things to say. Dr. Chen addressed the camera. What people need to understand is that stuttering is neurological. It's not caused by nervousness or lack of intelligence. Many people who stutter are incredibly bright and creative. They just need the right tools and support. She turned back to Lucas. Tell the camera what you want people to know about stuttering. Lucas thought for a moment. 6 months ago, he would have been terrified of this question, but he had practiced. He had worked hard, and he had learned that his message mattered more than his delivery. I want people to know that saint stuttering doesn't mean you have nothing to say, Lucas said, looking directly at the camera. It just means you need more time to say it. And that's okay. People should listen anyway. The camera operator wiped her eye. After months of filming Lucas, she had grown attached to his story. After the therapy session ended, Lucas walked through the halls of the Institute. He knew them well now. This place had become his second home. He stopped at a bulletin board where his original story pages hung in a frame. The paper was still crumpled and worn. Dr. Chen had insisted on displaying them exactly as they were that night at Comic-Con. A small sign next to the frame read, "Every voice matters. Every story deserves to be heard." Lucas Santos, other kids came through these halls every day. Kids younger than Lucas, kids older. Kids who stuttered like him. Kids with other speech challenges. And when they saw his story displayed like this, they felt hope. If Lucas could read his story in front of thousands of people, maybe they could read in class. Maybe they could answer questions. Maybe they could speak up. Lucas had started volunteering at the Institute twice a week. He worked with younger children who were just beginning therapy. His empathy and understanding helped them in ways clinical training alone could not. He knew exactly how they felt. He knew the frustration, the embarrassment, the fear, and he showed them it was possible to get through it. Last week, a 7-year-old boy named Marcus had refused to speak at all during his session. He just sat there, silent and scared. Dr. Chen tried everything, but Marcus would not make a sound. So they called Lucas. He sat down with Marcus and did not ask him to talk. Instead, Lucas told Marcus about Comic-Con, about being so scared his hands shook, about wanting to run away, about how hard it was to read his story. "But you did it anyway?" Marcus had asked, breaking his silence. "I did it anyway," Lucas confirmed. "And you know what? The hard things get a little easier each time you do them." Marcus had spoken for the rest of the session, small words at first, then sentences. It was a breakthrough, and Lucas had helped make it happen. Meanwhile, Maria was at her new job. She worked as an office administrator for a talent agency 3 blocks from the Institute. The agency represented actors, directors, and writers. It was a busy office, always full of activity and energy. Maria's desk was organized and efficient. She managed schedules, coordinated meetings, and handled logistics. She was good at her job. Really good. Her years of managing multiple work schedules and finding creative solutions to problems had prepared her well. The agency's manager, a woman named Lisa, stopped by Maria's desk. "Maria, I need you to know something. You're the best hire we've made in 5 years. The way you keep this place running, it's impressive." Maria smiled. "Thank you. I like the work. We're giving you a raise," Lisa said. "And I'd like to start training you for a coordinator position. You have a natural talent for this." After Lisa walked away, Maria sat back in her chair, amazed. A raise, a promotion opportunity. 6 months ago, she had been scrubbing toilets for $11 an hour. Now she had a career. Real career opportunities. She lived in a small apartment near the Institute, provided by Dr. Chen's program. It was not fancy, but it was clean and safe. More importantly, it meant she could walk to work. She could have lunch with Lucas between his therapy sessions. She did not need a car that was always breaking down. Did not need to work 2 jobs. Did not need to choose between groceries and medicine. For the first time in 8 years, Maria could breathe. She was not constantly stressed about money. She was not exhausted all the time. She could be present with Lucas instead of always working or sleeping. One evening after work, Maria cooked dinner while Lucas did homework at their small dining table. This had become their routine. Simple, peaceful evenings together. They talked about their days, about therapy sessions and work challenges, about the documentary filming and Lucas's volunteer work. "Mama," Lucas said while they ate, "I've been thinking about something." "What is it?" "My stutter. It's better now, but it's still there. It probably always will be." Maria nodded, listening. "And I think that's okay," Lucas continued. "I used to hate it. Used to think it made me broken. But Dr. Chen helped me see it differently. It's just part of me. Like my brown eyes or my love of writing. Just part of what makes me who I am." Maria reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I'm so proud of you. Not because your stutter is better, but because you're happier, more confident. That's what matters. I learned it from you," Lucas said. "You never let hard things stop you. You just kept going, kept working, kept believing things would get better." "And they did get better," Maria said softly. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is our life now." They finished dinner and cleaned up together. Then Lucas went to his room to work on something special. He had been writing again. Not just small stories anymore. A whole novel. It was based on his original story about the boy and his superhero mother, but expanded, deeper, more detailed. He had been working on it for months, writing every night before bed. The characters felt real to him now. They had histories and dreams and fears. Best of all, writing had become easier. As his speech therapy progressed, something interesting happened. The more control he gained over his spoken words, the more freely his written words flowed. Dr. Chen said this was common. The brain's language centers were connected. Working on one helped the other. Lucas was nearly finished with the manuscript. Another few weeks and he would be done. Then he would share it with Vin Diesel, who had promised to help find a publisher. The thought made Lucas nervous and excited at the same time. The next evening, there was a special event. The premiere of the new Fast and Furious movie. Lucas and Maria had been invited as special guests. A car service picked them up from their apartment. Maria wore a simple but elegant dress that Lisa from the agency had helped her choose. Lucas wore a suit that felt strange but good. The red carpet stretched before them, lined with photographers and reporters. Lucas had been dreading this part. All those cameras, all those people wanting to talk to him. But he reminded himself what Dr. Chen had taught him. He did not have to be perfect. He just had to be himself. "Lucas Santos," reporters called out. "Can we get a few words?" Lucas walked over with his mother. A reporter with a microphone smiled kindly. "Lucas, it's been 6 months since your moment with Vin Diesel at Comic-Con. How has your life changed?" Lucas took a breath using his techniques. "Everything has changed. I'm in speech therapy now. It's helping a lot. My mom has a better job. We're happy. What was it like working with Dr. Chen? She's amazing. She helped me see that my stutter doesn't define me. I'm still late learning, but I'm getting better every day." "We heard you're volunteering with younger kids now?" Lucas nodded, smiling. "Yes, I want to help other kids who stutter. I want them to know they're not alone." The reporters loved him. His honesty, his struggle, his progress. This was a good story. A real story about overcoming obstacles. More reporters wanted to talk, but Maria gently guided Lucas away. "That's enough for now," she said politely. They continued down the carpet. Inside the theater, they found their seats. They were in a special section with the cast and crew. Tyrese saw them and waved them over. "Lucas, Maria. So good to see you both." Michelle Rodriguez hugged them. "How's therapy going?" "Really well," Lucas said with only a slight stutter. Michelle noticed the improvement and her eyes lit up. "That's wonderful. I'm so happy for you." The lights dimmed and the movie started. During a quiet moment early in the film, special text appeared on screen. "Dedicated to Lucas and Maria Santos, and all the families who remind us what really matters." Lucas felt his throat get tight. Maria grabbed his hand and squeezed. They had not known this was coming. To see their names on that massive screen, in a movie that would be watched by millions of people around the world, was overwhelming. After the movie ended, there was a private dinner for cast, crew, and special guests. Lucas sat at a table with Vin Diesel and some other actors. It felt surreal. 6 months ago, he could never have imagined this. Now it felt almost normal. These people had become friends. Not just famous actors, but real people who cared about him and his mother. Vin Diesel clinked his glass to get everyone's attention. I want to make a toast to Lucas and Maria. 6 months ago, you changed my life. You reminded me why I do what I do. You reminded all of us what matters. So thank you. Everyone raised their glasses. To Lucas and Maria. After dinner, Lucas presented Vin Diesel with something wrapped in brown paper. I have something for you, Lucas said. Vin Diesel opened it carefully. Inside was a manuscript. The title page read, The Secret Cape by Lucas Santos. Underneath was a dedication. For Vin, who helped me find my voice. And for Mama, who always believed I had something worth saying. Vin Diesel's eyes filled with tears. He flipped through the pages, reading passages here and there. Lucas, this is really good. Like professionally good? You've got real talent. I've been working on it at night. After therapy, writing helps me think through things. Can I read the whole thing? Vin Diesel asked. That's why I'm giving it to you. You promised to help me find a publisher, if you think it's good enough. Oh, it's good enough, Vin Diesel assured him. I know some people in young adult publishing. Let me make some calls. True to his word, Vin Diesel spent the next 2 weeks reading Lucas's manuscript and sharing it with publishers he knew. 3 different publishing houses wanted it. There was even a small bidding war. Lucas chose a publisher that specialized in books for young readers and had a good track record of promoting diverse voices. The book deal came with an advance. Not millions of dollars, but enough to make a real difference. Enough for Maria to save money. Enough for Lucas to buy a laptop for writing. Enough to feel secure. The Secret Cape was scheduled to be published in 8 months. The publisher wanted to do a whole campaign around it. Lucas's story about overcoming his stutter and finding his voice would be part of the marketing. It would inspire young readers who faced their own challenges. As the months passed, more good news came. The Lucas Santos Family Scholarship had helped over 200 children. Kids from convention centers, movie theaters, and concert venues across the country. Children of janitors, security guards, food service workers, all getting help with their education. The scholarship program had grown beyond what anyone expected. More celebrities had contributed. Corporate sponsors had joined. What started as $500,000 had grown to over $5 million. The program now had a full-time director and staff. It was making a real difference. Thomas, the older janitor from the San Diego Convention Center, had used the scholarship money to help his grandson. The boy was getting tutoring now, and his grades had improved dramatically. Thomas called Maria every few weeks to update her and thank her. None of this would have happened without Lucas, Thomas said during one call. He spoke up. He shared his story. And now look what's happening. Maria told Lucas about the call. You started something important, she said. We started it, Lucas corrected. Together. 1 year after the Comic-Con incident, Dr. Chen's Institute held a special event. They were naming a new therapy wing after Lucas. The Lucas Santos Wing for Youth Speech Development would provide services for children who could not otherwise afford them. At the ceremony, Lucas gave a speech. A real speech in front of about 100 people. He had practiced for weeks. His stutter was still present but manageable. He did not let it stop him from saying what he wanted to say. 1 year ago, I was a scared kid who could barely talk, Lucas began. His voice was clear with only occasional hesitation. I thought my stutter meant I had nothing important to say. I thought being different meant being less. He paused, looking at his mother in the front row. She smiled at him, encouraging him to continue. But then something amazing happened. I shared my story, and people listened. Not despite my stutter, but with it. They saw past my struggle to hear my message, and that changed everything. He talked about his therapy journey, about the hard work and frustration, about the small victories that added up over time, about learning to accept himself. I want other kids to know something, Lucas said, his voice strong. Your voice matters, even if it shakes, even if it stutters, even if it's different. You have something important to say. Don't let fear stop you. Don't let bullies stop you. Don't let anything stop you from being heard. The audience stood and applauded. Many were crying. They had watched Lucas grow over the past year, had seen him transform from a terrified boy who could barely speak to a confident young man with something important to say. After the ceremony, a teenager approached Lucas. She looked to be about 16, shy and nervous. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm Ashley. I have a stutter too." "Nice to meet you, Ashley," Lucas said. "I just wanted to say thank you. I saw the video of you at Comic-Con. I saw you struggling to read your story, and it helped me so much. I felt less alone." That evening, Lucas worked on his second novel. The first had been about a boy seeing his mother's heroism. This one was about a group of kids who were all different in some way, all struggling, all feeling like they didn't fit in, and how they found each other and became a family. Lucas thought it might be his best work yet. He was writing with more confidence now. His voice, both spoken and written, was stronger. Maria knocked on his door. "How's the writing going?" "Good, really good. I'm proud of you, mi amor." "You know that, right?" Lucas smiled. "I know. I'm proud of you too, Mama." "Me? Why?" "Because you never gave up, even when things were really hard. Even when you were tired and scared and didn't know how we'd make it. You kept going. You kept believing. That's real strength." Maria's eyes filled with tears. After all this time, after all the success, what meant the most to her was knowing her son was okay, that he was happy, that he believed in himself. "We did it together," she said, repeating what Lucas always told her. "Yeah, we did." 3 years after Comic-Con, the documentary about Lucas's journey premiered. It had taken a long time to film and edit, but the result was powerful. It showed his entire journey from that night on stage to now. It showed his struggles in therapy, his breakthroughs, his growth. But more than that, it showed other kids with speech disorders. It showed their families. It showed therapists and teachers and communities coming together to help. It showed how one moment of courage could ripple outward and create change. The documentary ended with Lucas speaking directly to the camera. 3 years ago, I was scared to speak. Now I can't stop. I have so much to say, so many stories to tell. And I know now that my stutter doesn't make me less. It makes me who I am. It's part of my story, and my story matters. The final shot was of Lucas and Maria walking together, talking and laughing. The camera pulled back to show the Los Angeles skyline at sunset. The credits rolled over that image. In theaters across the country, people watched and cried. The documentary became required viewing in many schools. It sparked conversations about bullying, about accepting differences, about listening to people even when they struggle to speak. The Lucas Santos Family Scholarship continued to grow. By the 3-year mark, it had helped over 500 families. The program had expanded to include not just scholarships but also job training for parents, financial literacy courses, and mental health resources. Vin Diesel remained involved, attending scholarship ceremonies and staying in touch with Lucas and Maria. What had started as an impulse decision on stage had become one of the most meaningful things he had ever done. "You changed my life," Vin Diesel told Lucas at a scholarship event. "I was getting lost in the fame and the business of Hollywood. You reminded me what matters. Real people. Real struggles. Using my platform for something meaningful. You changed our lives," Lucas responded. "You saw me. You listened. That meant everything." On the 4th anniversary of that night at Comic-Con, Lucas was 16 and working on his 3rd book. He still stuttered sometimes, especially when he was tired or stressed. But it did not bother him anymore. It was just part of how he communicated. Some people typed slower than others. Some people wrote smaller than others. He spoke with a stutter. So what? He had learned that the content of his words mattered more than their delivery, that people who were worth listening to would wait for him to finish, that his voice had power even when it shook. Maria had been promoted to senior coordinator at the talent agency. She was making more money than she ever imagined. She sent money to her parents in Mexico regularly. She had savings in the bank for the first time in her life. She felt secure. But more than the money or success, she felt proud. Proud of Lucas, of course, but also proud of herself. She had survived the hard years, had worked herself to exhaustion to provide for her son, had never given up even when giving up would have been easier, and it had paid off. Not just in material ways, but in the knowledge that she had raised a good person, a kind person, a person who used his gifts to help others. Late one night, Lucas came out of his room to find Maria sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. She did this sometimes, just sat and thought, grateful for how far they had come. "Can't sleep?" Lucas asked, joining her. "Just thinking," Maria said. "About what?" "About 4 years ago, when we lived in that tiny apartment in San Diego. When I cleaned toilets for a living and you were bullied at school. When we had nothing." "We didn't have nothing," Lucas corrected gently. "We had each other," Maria smiled. "Yes, we did. We always had that." They sat together in comfortable silence. Outside their window, Los Angeles sparkled with lights. Somewhere in the city, kids were struggling just like Lucas had, feeling different, feeling broken, feeling like they didn't matter. But maybe one of them would hear Lucas's story. Maybe one of them would read his book or see the documentary or receive a scholarship. Maybe one of them would find the courage to speak up, to share their truth, to believe they mattered, and maybe that would be enough. Maybe one voice raised despite fear and struggle could change the world, or at least change one corner of it. Make it a little kinder, a little more understanding, a little more willing to listen. Lucas thought about that 14-year-old boy who walked onto a stage with shaking hands and a crumpled poster. That boy had been so scared, so sure he would fail, so certain that nobody cared what he had to say. But he had been wrong. People did care. They cared so much, and his willingness to be vulnerable, to share his story despite the difficulty, had opened doors he never imagined. "Mama," Lucas said softly, "do you remember what you used to tell me when I was little and scared?" "I told you many things," Maria said, smiling. "You said that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you are scared. I remember. You were right. That night at Comic-Con, I was terrified. But I read my story anyway, and everything changed. Not just for us," Maria added. "For many people." Lucas nodded. That was the part he was most proud of. Not his book sales or documentary, not even his therapy success, but the fact that his moment of courage had helped others find their own courage, that his story had given voice to people who felt voiceless. "Family isn't just blood," Lucas said, quoting the phrase that had brought him to Comic-Con in the first place. "It's choosing to show up for each other, to support each other, to see each other." "Yes," Maria agreed, "and we have so much family now. More than we ever expected." It was true. They had Dr. Chen and her staff. They had Vin Diesel and the cast. They had the scholarship recipients and their families. They had the kids Lucas mentored at the Institute. They had a whole community of people who cared. But at the center of it all, there was still just the two of them, mother and son. The original family. The foundation everything else was built on. "I love you, Mama," Lucas said. "I love you too, mi amor. Always." They finished their tea and went to bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. Lucas had school and writing and volunteer work. Maria had her job and responsibilities. Life continued as it always did. But they faced it together, stronger than before, grateful for the journey that brought them here. From invisible janitor and struggling kid to heroes in their own story. Not because they were perfect, but because they were real. Because they loved each other. Because they never gave up. And somewhere in San Diego, in a convention center that was quiet now in the middle of the night, a cleaning crew worked. Men and women in gray uniforms pushing carts, emptying trash, sweeping floors. Invisible to most, but not invisible to everyone. Because Lucas's story had changed how people saw these workers, had reminded the world that everyone matters. Everyone has dignity. Everyone is someone's hero. And maybe that was the real power of stories. Not to escape reality, but to help people see reality more clearly, to recognize the heroism in everyday life, the quiet sacrifices, the steady love, the unnoticed work that keeps the world running. Lucas had written his story to honor his mother. But in doing so, he had honored everyone who worked hard, struggled quietly, and kept going despite the difficulty. He had given them a voice, had helped the world see their capes, and that more than anything else was worth every stuttered word. Every moment of fear, every struggle to be heard, because in the end, he had been heard. And his message was simple but powerful. Everyone matters. Every story deserves to be told. Every voice, no matter how it sounds, has value. That message echoed out from that night at Comic-Con, growing louder with each retelling, touching more lives with each passing year. A reminder that sometimes the most important thing you can do is speak up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because you never know who needs to hear your voice. Who needs your story? Who needs to know they're not alone? And that knowledge, that hope, that connection between human beings who see each other truly, that was family in its purest form. That was what it all meant. That was everything.